So prior to the ending of the day before, you had Rin showing Archer all over the city, and they ended up on top of a skyscraper just taking it all in. And while she's up there, Rin starts to feel like somebody has their eyes on her. She looks down and sees Shiro looking directly at her. You were not supposed to be here. So she tries to fall back from the edge and pretend like it didn't happen. They head back home, and while they're on the way, they notice Sakura in the alley, and she's talking to a man with gold hair. Who is that? Rin ducks off to the side. Rin mentioned that she skipped school, so she didn't want Sakura to see her. She has no idea who the man is, but since they can't detect anything, they just assume that he's human. Rin believing that he might be a foreigner. He's foreign, alright. She gets back home and then she remembers that she has to call Kirei before she goes to bed. Apparently, she had to let him know that she summoned her servant, otherwise he would have filled her in with the substitute master. So she calls him up and he tells her that you should come see me, I have something to give you. We all remember what you gave her the last time, Kirei. We will not be accepting any charity from you, brother. She then tells him that she already knows what he's talking about, which is Tokiyomi's will, that she's deciphered it and she's already got the item from it, which is the pendant. He tries to respond and she just hangs up in his face. Can't do it today, Kirei. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. So it's the beginning of the third day and Rin is starting to understand Archer's character a bit more. He can be sarcastic at times. It's just a part of his humor, but he doesn't really mean anything by it. Then she starts to head out for school and he tries to stop her. Where are you going? To school. What does it look like? I don't think that's a good idea. Now that you're a master, you gotta move different. And she tells him that just because she's a master doesn't mean that she's gonna change her whole life around. Besides, school goes down in the daytime, it's in the public. What's the worst that can happen? And see, this is where it feels like Rin is dropping the ball again. First, it was her wasting the command spell, and now she's saying, well, nobody's gonna attack me at school, it's in the public. Who would do that? Cue Shinji, the man who could care less about being formally correct. See, she couldn't be in there with me. When I see everybody going this direction, I go the other way. I would attack her at the school just because she believes that I wouldn't attack her at the school. Or in public in general. She's too formulaic. She's got to get that out of her head. She does tell Archer that she will allow him to be present in spirit form just in case something does happen. And then he poses a situation. On the off chance that something does go down, what do you plan on doing? So what, you're saying that somebody's at the school? Probably. And Rin continues to say, I don't think so. There's only one other family that could be there, and they don't have a master. So there's no way that that could be the case. This other family, of course, being the Matos. She claims that she did a little research on them before it all started. This is just a lack of information on Rin's part. It's only natural to think that way from the data that she's collected, but you should never count somebody out fully. The one time where you count somebody out, that 1% is when you're going to regret it. How many times has a team, a fighter, a war combatant been counted out because the other side believes that they aren't equipped enough? There's no way they can come back from that. And then they go into overtime. And then the next thing you know, they snatch victory out of the jaws of defeat. It's one of the worst ways to go down because you decided to blow a 3-1 lead. And he's constantly trying to argue her down. Oh, there could be somebody else. You always need to expect the unexpected. And she is not hearing it. If there is somebody else, then that's on me. Oops, my bad, I'm just gonna have to deal with it. So they pull up to the school, and the moment that they get there, she stops because she starts to sense magical energy that shouldn't be there. It was a bounded field around the school. But more than being afraid, she was actually angry. Whoever put this up is trash. I'm not supposed to sense this. I should mop the floor with them for even setting it up this way. So she's leaving from second period, and then she sees Sakura in the hallway who's carrying a stack of papers. It looks like she's struggling, so Rin decides to help her out, and she finds out that she's taking them all to Kazuki over a misspelling. Apparently in the past, Kazuki has pulled the plug on an entire midterm just over a misspelling. What in the OCD? So after that, Rin started to ask her about the conversation that she had with the man she met yesterday. This of course being Gilgamesh. And this is what I mean. And I'm glad I'm doing this so I can frame it. And again, people can't twist what I say. The only reason she just spoke to Sakura was to ask about Gilgamesh. It's almost like those people that ask you how you're doing just to ask you for a favor. You could have just asked for the favor. When she does things like that, and she doesn't do it all the time, but when she does, it seems super non-genuine. If you go back to their first interaction, when Rin wasn't trying to pry information out of her, she really didn't have anything to say to her. Now, all of a sudden, she has all the time in the world. Then Rin asked her, well, what did he say? And Sakura says that he asked a bunch of questions, but she couldn't really make out what he was saying, so she just ran away. Classic. Well, if Shinji just happens to be giving you any problems, just let me know. I'm aware that he does the most. And Sakura says, nah, it's cool. And this is that same line that people always bring up. Well, since Sakura is smiling, I can't say anything else. I can't stand that line. Well, I guess since she said it's okay, it must all be Gucci. If that's the case, then everybody that's smiling is okay. How many comedians, entertainers that we know have done the same thing? People whose entire job is to make everybody else laugh, just to turn around and find out that they deleted themselves because they were the ones that were hurting the most. By their logic, they were okay too. And people will really bring this up like it's a good argument. Preposterous. Y'all will let her get away with anything because you like her. I really like her, and that's why I gotta do it, because I'm not a yes man. These dudes are so used to content creators getting on here and stroking their ego and telling them how great their favorite character is just to keep their views up. Man, fuck your favorite character. I'm not telling you what you want to hear, I'm telling you what you need to hear. And it's not just Rin either, I'm on everybody. We just happen to be talking about Rin right now. I just got through boxing up Shinji. So now that that's out the way, school is now over and she's going to check out that bounded field with Emiya. It tells us that a bounded field is basically an area of magecraft that weaves across the land. In other words, it's a barrier. It's meant to protect the person that's using it, and it's not something that should just be overlooked. She mentions illusionary bounded fields, like the one that's around the clock tower that hides the things that's inside the barrier, bounded fields that can limit the amount of magecraft that you can use in them, and then worse than them both is a bounded field that can drain the energy of the beings that's inside them, i.e. Medusas. Lucky for them, the bounded field isn't complete, so they still got some time. She also brings up the fact that it would knock everybody else unconscious because they're non-mages, but real mages or people with strong currents like her are just gonna ward it off because she has a stronger magical current. And from that bit of information alone, she realizes that the guy that put this up isn't doing it for the war, he's doing it solely to attack the people. Right now they're on the rooftop of the school. It's already nightfall, it's around 8 o'clock. Rin mentions that school closes at 6. Rin gets out hours earlier before that. So that means that she's already devoted several hours just into figuring this out. So you gotta give her credit for that. And I'm really glad that she took Emiya's advice to take it more serious, because if she didn't, I'm sure she still would have checked on it, but she might have left and came back instead of staying. And this is the part where she's about to run into Ku. The more I think about it, if she left and came back, she would have missed Ku, probably. And that interaction is what leads into the fight, which also leads into Shiro summoning Saber. It's crazy how one thing can change so many events, because the school is more than likely the highest thing in that area. It makes for a really good vantage point. I'm sure that's why Ku was up there. He also more than likely sensed that bounded field too. But if he didn't see Rin, he probably would have left and ended up doing something like going against Medea. You know, we've heard about Ku going against Medea, and we also can see it in the intro of the anime, but we've never actually seen it in effect. This could have called for a completely different line of events. We already know from Heaven's Field that he's not opposed to going to Ryo Temple because he followed Hassan there with no problem. So let's say he followed Medea there, and now he has to go against Medea and Sasaki. Never even considered it. The pole man meets the pole man.